Hey guys, tonight we're slipping quietly into a world of shadowed candlelight, whispering midwives, bone-chilling superstition, and soft cries behind heavy wooden doors. A world where a missed monthly bleeding might seal your fate. Where being pregnant isn't a medical journey, it's a daily walk through mystery, prayer, and danger. You're going to carry a child in the Middle Ages. You won't have charts or ultrasounds. You won't even have certainty. Just hands on your belly, eyes to the sky, and a steady hope that you make it through alive. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins with silence. Your body shifts. Something feels off, a slight tightness in your breasts. A wave of nausea when the bread smells too sharp. You haven't bled in. How long? You're not quite sure. You try to count the moons. You whisper to yourself that it could just be stress, poor food, a chill in the wind. But part of you already knows. If you're a peasant, no one gives you a cloth to mark the moment. No doctor confirms anything. There is no clean test, no sterile strip. You tell your mother-in-law or the midwife down the lane, or maybe you say nothing at all. Because in this world, being pregnant isn't only about life, it's about death. And secrecy can feel like safety. If you're a noble woman, the stakes are different, but no less brutal. From the moment you're married, you're expected to carry heirs. A womb in a velvet gown. Your value isn't in who you are, but in what you can produce. A boy, preferably. A spare, even better. A girl that's tolerated. So you're pregnant. Or maybe you think you are. And now the real journey begins. The early days are watched closely. Everyone has a theory. You're told not to raise your arms above your head, it might twist the baby's cord. Don't eat too many apples. Don't sit on cold stones. Don't look at anything frightening. Don't think lustful thoughts. Don't sneeze too hard. And above all, pray. Pray the baby quickens. Quickening. That's when you feel the first flutter proof of life of a soul. Before that, well, some say it's not really a child yet. Just a lump of potential, an uncertain knot of clay and hope. You wait for the movement. Some feel it at 3 months, some at 4. Some never do, and when that happens, the whispers begin. They say it wasn't meant to be, or worse, that you were cursed, that your womb is barren, that your sins have grown inward. You visit the midwife. She's not a doctor, no one is. She's a woman old as weather with hands that have felt 100 bellies and buried just as many stillborn babes. She carries herbs in her apron and prayers in her teeth. She watches your face when you tell her what you feel. She nods slowly. It's too early, she says. Eat more broth. Sleep with rosemary under your pillow. You nod. Because what else can you do? There's no comfort from the church. The priests frown on women's talk. They bless your womb but look away when it bleeds. They preach that pain is holy, that Eve brought it upon her, that every scream in childbirth is a cry owed since Eden. You start to dream of blood, of screaming, of being too cold or too hot or too alone. You wake sweating in your straw bed. Your back aches, your belly twists, and always, always you listen for movement, for proof. Your husband watches you. He doesn't understand. He can't. He jokes about how you walk now slow and wide. He brags to the other men. But he doesn't touch your stomach, not the way you need. Not with awe. Just ownership. The village women begin to watch you too. Some are kind. They bring you broth, warm cloths, soft encouragements. Others just nod. They've seen too many pregnancies to get hopeful this early. They've buried too many babies to smile yet. Your body changes. Your ankles swell. Your appetite turns strange. You crave salted fish and sour milk. You hate the smell of bread. You cry for no reason. Your womb tightens at night, small contractions, they say. Just the womb practicing, the midwife mutters. You hope she's right. As the moons pass, the gossip begins. She's too small, must be a girl. No, she's carrying high, surely a boy. She doesn't glow. It's going wrong, she's too quiet. Maybe she lost it already. You pretend not to hear. But you do, every word. And you wonder if they're right. At 5 months, you feel the flutter. It's light at first, like butterfly wings inside your ribs. Then stronger. A kick. A stretch. You gasp. You place your hand there. And for the first time, you believe. There's a baby inside you. Alive. Maybe. But there's no celebration yet. No sonograms, no gender reveals. Just more waiting. More watching. More caution. The midwife comes more often. She checks your urine by color, smell, heat. She feels your belly. She asks if you've seen blood. She touches your wrist and nods as if your pulse tells her a story you'll never know how to read. You ask her if you'll be all right. She doesn't answer. Instead, she gives you a satchel of herbs to steep in water, to bathe in, to chew if the pain becomes too much. She tells you about the signs when your waters break, when the pain starts in your back, when to send for her. You ask how long it will take. She says sometimes a few hours, sometimes 3 days, sometimes not at all. You don't ask what she means. You already know. You start to make plans. Who will be with you? Who will bring the cloths? Who will boil the water? You count the linens. You bury your fears under busy hands. Because you can't run. There's no hospital, no surgeon, no painkillers, no clean room. There's just your bed, your breath, your body, and whatever comes next. You begin to move differently now. Not just slower, but with an awareness. Every step is calculated, every breath guarded. You've seen what happens to women who trip while carrying. You know the whispers that follow them. A fall isn't just an accident, it's an omen. It's punishment. It's proof that the child wasn't meant to be. So you walk with care. You sleep on your side. You eat what you're told. Warm things, wet things. Broths, milk, bread soaked in ale. Cold foods are to be avoided, they say they chill the womb. Certain herbs are banned. Pennyroyal, tansy, rue. You hear them whispered with caution. Not because they're bad for the baby, but because they're too good at getting rid of one. That too is a secret that walks your village. You hear it in the way women speak to each other. Carefully. One says she's been delayed by her courses. Another recommends a tea. No one says the word out loud, but everyone knows what it means. Sometimes it's the only choice. You think about this more than you should, because the pregnancy doesn't get easier. it gets heavier. Your back aches. Your belly grows taut and hot in the sun. You can't breathe lying down. You can't sleep sitting up. Your legs swell like soaked wood. Your feet go numb. The baby kicks at your ribs like it's trying to climb out. And yet you love it. Not with ease, not with certainty, but with the quiet ache of hope. You imagine holding it, feeding it, naming it. You tell yourself you'll be different, that this child will be safe, that the pain will be worth it. But the closer you get to term, the more the world changes around you. Women become silent. They watch you with old eyes. They stop joking. They start preparing. Someone brings you wool to tear into strips. For the bleeding, she says. Another offers boiled linen for wrapping the babe. A third gifts you a candle shaped like the Virgin for the night it begins. No one says birth. No one says baby. They all say when the time comes, as if naming it might summon the pain too soon. You sit on a stool and stitch. You watch the sun move across the floor. You count the kicks. You listen for anything unusual, too little movement, too much. You wake at night in a sweat, unsure whether you've dreamed the labor again or if it's finally begun. The midwife comes more frequently. She watches you, listens to your breath, taps your belly like it's a drum. Sometimes she hums, sometimes she frowns. You ask her again, will I be all right? This time she speaks. You'll need strength and silence and saints. You nod. That night you wash with herbs. You pray in a whisper. You kiss your husband's shoulder while he sleeps, wondering if this is the last night you'll lie beside him. And when it begins quietly. A tightening, a bloom of warmth low in your belly. You know the difference immediately. This isn't stretching. This isn't gas. This is something pulling, opening, dragging you down. You try to rest, but the pain comes again and again. By dawn, you're sweating. You cry out once. Someone hears. The house stirs. Footsteps. Doors. Water boiling. Hands everywhere. You're laid in your bed. A clean sheet beneath you. A cross in your palm. Someone ties your hair back. Someone else removes your shift. Your body is no longer yours. It belongs to the birth now. The midwife arrives, face set. She takes your pulse, feels your belly, nods to the others. It has begun. What follows is a kind of drowning. The contractions roll over you like waves, each one stronger, deeper, meaner. You grip the bedpost until your knuckles bleed. You scream until your throat burns. You sob. You beg. You curse. And still it doesn't come. Hours pass. The midwife presses her hands between your legs. She mutters prayers. She adds herbs to the water. She checks again. Still nothing. You're told not to push too early. Then told to push harder. Then told to stop. Your body doesn't listen. It shakes. It trembles. You vomit. You lose control. You bleed. Your husband is not allowed in. This is women's work. Someone pours wine into your mouth. Another wipes your brow. The midwife slaps your thigh and tells you to breathe. You try. You push. And something moves. Not the child, not yet. But something breaks. A pressure. A sound. The wet slap of your waters releasing. The women nod. It's time, they say. But it was always time. Now comes the real part. You brace, you scream, you bear down so hard you see stars. And then, a head. The midwife leans close. She cups it. She tells you to stop pushing. You can't. Your body is done obeying. The child comes all at once. A rush of blood, a cry, a silence, then a wail, a tiny, angry, perfect scream. The women cheer. You collapse. The midwife holds the baby up to the light, checks fingers, toes, nose, eyes. She hands it to you. It's a boy, she says. You smile. Then you start bleeding again, heavily. You're told not to worry, that it's normal, that the afterbirth must come. But the pain doesn't stop. The blood doesn't stop. You fade in and out. You hear your name called like a prayer. The midwife presses your stomach, packs your thighs with cloth. The baby is gone, someone's taken him to be cleaned. All that's left is pain. And then, stillness. You wake hours later, pale, weak, but alive. And the baby is in your arms. For now, he's so small. That's the first thing you realize when you finally see him clearly. His head is misshapen from the birth and his skin mottled red and purple like bruised fruit. His fingers curl like tiny twigs. His cry is thin, almost uncertain, but he's breathing. His chest rises and falls with a rhythm that pulls you back from the brink. You touch his cheek. It's softer than anything you've known, softer than wool, than feathers, than hope itself. You press your lips to his forehead, and your tears come hot and sudden, because you did it. For now. The women begin to clean. The rags are soaked through. They're taken outside and burned or buried depending on the custom. A bowl of warm water is brought. Someone washes your legs, your thighs, the blood that streaks down like battle scars. You don't care who sees you. You're too tired to care. They dress the baby in swaddling cloths, wrapping his arms tight to his sides, binding him like a scroll. They say it helps shape the limbs, makes him grow straight. He looks like a little mummy with only his flushed face exposed. He cries again. The midwife nods. Good lungs. Then she presses a hand to your belly, still too soft. You flinch. She checks for clots. The bleeding has slowed, but it hasn't stopped. She gives you wine infused with herbs, something bitter, something that tastes like earth and rust. You drink it, because there is no choice. The pain hasn't left. It just changed. Afterpains, they call them. The womb shrinking back. You feel every twitch, every spasm, like your body's trying to tear itself into normal again. And the hunger, it gnaws at you now. You haven't eaten in hours, maybe longer. Someone brings broth. You sip it slowly. You almost weep from the salt. The baby sleeps in a woven basket by your bed. No cradle, not yet. Not until he survives his first week. They don't name him yet either. In your village, they wait. 3 days, 5, sometimes more. Because too many don't make it. You've seen it. Babies who never cry, who don't feed, who go blue in the night, their tiny breaths stilled before they've even been counted. You hear stories of the devil stealing infants in their sleep, of cursed wombs, of midwives who failed to cut the cord at the right time, of mothers who bled too long or not enough. You try not to think of those things, but they come anyway. That first night you hardly sleep. Your body aches in ways you didn't know were possible. Your breasts are swollen hot. They leak clear fluid that smells like milk and salt. You try to nurse, it hurts. He latches clumsily. Sucks once. Cries. Sucks again. You wince and your nipples crack, but you don't stop, because this is what keeps him alive. And the midwife says it helps your womb contract. You nod. You'll take every bit of help. Your husband visits in the morning. He stands awkwardly at the foot of your bed, staring at the child as though it might bite. You expect tenderness. You get silence. He says, "Looks like me." You nod. He says, "Strong lungs." You nod again. Then he leaves. He has a field to tend, or a debt to pay. Or maybe he just doesn't know what to do with a wife who looks like she's died and come back different. Because you have. You feel it already. Something inside you has changed. Not just your body, your bones, your skin, your blood, but something deeper. You're not the same woman who walked barefoot through the market, who laughed in the fields, who prayed under the moon for a healthy babe. You're something else now. A gate, a vessel, a survivor. You bleed for days. The midwife checks you daily. Her hands are gentle but unflinching. She presses, probes, nods. It's slowing. She gives you roots to chew, stews thick with barley and marrow, brewed teas to bring your strength back. You pretend they help. Maybe they do. Some women heal quickly. You don't. Your hips feel loose, your back is crooked. You wobble when you walk. Your breasts are engorged and sore. One gets infected. A red streak crawls across your chest like a creeping vine. The midwife lances the swelling with a heated knife. You scream into a rag. She applies honey, wraps it tight, says a prayer under her breath. You don't ask which saint it was to, but the baby feeds better now. And you don't die. That's more than many get. You hear of another woman in the next village over who bled out after her third birth. Her child lives, but barely. Her husband remarried within the month. The new wife is 16. You see your husband watching you one night while you nurse. You wonder if he's thinking the same. You try not to let it show. On the 5th day, the baby is named. You gather by the church, wrapped in your thickest shawl, flanked by women who walk slower than usual to match your limping pace. The priest is brief. He mutters the Latin, sprinkles the water, marks the sign of the cross. Thomas, your husband, says. You whisper it under your breath to see how it feels. Thomas. The priest warns of sin, warns of the child's future, warns of temptation and the devil. But you're not listening. You're watching the sunlight catch in your son's eyes. You're wondering if you'll live long enough to see him walk, to see him work, to see him marry. You've made it through birth. But now comes the harder part, surviving motherhood in a world that doesn't make space for softness. You return home. The sheets are clean. The air smells of boiled herbs and ash. The fire is lit. You hold your child to your chest, and you pray not for the first time, not for the last, that you'll both still be breathing come morning. You begin to measure time in feedings. It's no longer sunrise, noon, sunset. It's when he last suckled, when he'll cry again, when your breasts begin to ache with fullness. You've become a clock wound tightly around a child who doesn't yet know night from day. Your body still hasn't settled. You bleed off and on. Some days it's heavier, like a second birth your body wasn't finished with. The midwife says it's normal as long as it doesn't smell sweet. You know what that means. Sweet means rot. Sweet means fever. Sweet means death. So you breathe shallowly, trying to sniff your own skin, your own sheets. You wait for warmth to return to your limbs. Cold is a warning. Cold means slipping. The days begin to blur. You forget what it was like to sleep through the night. You rise 3-4 times between dusk and dawn. His cries are small but urgent. Your breasts harden with milk that leaks without permission. Your nipples crack, then scab, then crack again. The pain shoots through you like fire, and still you offer yourself to him. Because if you don't, he won't grow. You hum when he feeds. Old songs, broken prayers, words you don't remember learning. He calms with sound even if he doesn't understand. Some women dry up early. You pray not to be one of them. But even now the church says you are unclean. For 40 days you must not enter sacred ground. It's the tradition of purification churching, they call it. You bled so you're barred. Until the priest calls you back with oil and water and whispered Latin. You feel exiled. But you're used to that feeling. At home, you are both mother and nurse, both cook and keeper. Your husband still expects meals. The sheep still need tending. The fire still needs feeding. No one stops their world because yours has changed. Only the midwife sees you. She returns one morning to check the baby. He's grown. His cheeks are fuller. His eyes stay open longer now. She watches how he turns his head to your voice. She nods. Then she gives you a warning. Watch for the fever. It doesn't always come. But when it does, it arrives without warning. A sudden chill, then a flush, then sweat, then hallucinations. If you feel it, she says, send for her immediately. Don't wait for it to pass. It won't. You promise. You don't sleep that night. Every twinge feels suspicious. You sit up too fast. You touch your chest. You check your pulse. The baby sleeps, but you stare at the ceiling waiting. By morning, the fear fades, a little. You manage to stand longer now. You carry the baby in a sling made from old linen. He's warm against your chest. He coos. His fists open and close. You think you see a smile. Maybe. But outside, people are cautious. Some are kind. Some are cruel. A neighbor tells you your baby looks small. Another says he cries too much. A third asks if your milk is strong enough. You smile politely, then turn away, because you've learned the weight of their words. You've seen what they say when a baby fails to thrive, when a woman loses too many, when a child dies too young and they begin to wonder. Was it a curse? Was it the mother? Did she confess you hold your son closer? The priest visits to bless the house. He sprinkles water on the doorposts, murmurs the old lines. He avoids your eyes. You are still within the 40 days. After he leaves, the midwife frowns. Burn rosemary in the hearth, she says. It'll undo whatever he left behind. You do it, because this world leaves no space for chances. At night, you dream of fire, of candles too close to linen, of the baby slipping from your arms into the hearth. You wake gasping, heart thudding. He's safe, still in the basket, still breathing. You don't know how long you can live like this. But you do, because there is no other way. You learn to hold him differently, to soothe him with your voice. You learn his signals, his whimper before he wails, the look he gives when he's tired, the way he stiffens just before he soils the cloth. You begin to laugh again, once, then twice, then more, and then one morning he stops feeding, just for a few hours. He refuses the breast, turns his head, cries, then goes silent. Your blood turns to ice. You press your hand to his forehead. It's hot, too hot. You unwrap him. He feels heavy, limp. You call for the midwife. She comes running. She checks his pulse, his tongue, his eyes. She listens to his breath. She smells his skin. Then she looks at you, and you see it, that look. You beg her to help. She gives you a cloth soaked in vinegar, tells you to wipe him, to cool him, to keep him naked, to sing, to rock. You do all of it. Your voice trembles. Your hands shake. You don't eat that day. You don't sit. You stay awake all night. And sometime before dawn, he latches again, weakly, slowly. But he feeds. The fever breaks. The midwife says nothing, just smiles, just nods. But her hands tremble too. The next day you sleep, truly sleep, the kind that reaches into your bones. And when you wake, he's there, still breathing, still yours. There's a new rhythm now. The terror has not left you, not fully, but it has faded enough to let in light. Days that used to blur with bleeding and aching are now broken by small joys. He smiles more often. He kicks his legs. He makes sounds like doves in the morning. You laugh when he laughs. You find yourself humming again, not out of nerves, but from something closer to peace. You never forget how close it came, but you also know you're not the only one. Other mothers tell their stories while grinding grain or picking lice from each other's cloaks. Some lost their first child, others their fourth. Some bled for weeks. Others broke hips during labor. Some never bled again. Their wombs closed like fists after that never to open. They share these tales plainly, not out of bitterness, but as warnings, as memories. You listen, because you know now that pregnancy in the Middle Ages wasn't a 9-month inconvenience. It was a lifelong badge, a wound that never fully heals, a trial endured with no guarantee of joy at the end. But you were lucky so far, and luck in this world can turn like wind. The child is baptized. He's named. He's real now, not just in body, but in the eyes of the church, the village, the world. The neighbors begin to speak to you differently. You're a mother now. That means something. It carries weight. Some look at you with respect, others with pity, a few with fear. You've stepped into a realm that not everyone survives. And whether you know it or not, you've been changed. You see it in the way your clothes hang looser now, except where your breasts strain the seams. You see it in your walk, in your face, in your hands, cracked, darkened, always moving. You are not the girl you once were. And now that you've made it through, the questions begin. Will you have another? When will you try again? You're young. You'll give him a brother soon, won't you? You feel your heart clutch. because your body is still broken. You still wince when you bend, still leak when he cries, still bleed once a moon, though it's slower now, like your womb remembers what it gave. The thought of doing it all again feels like standing at the edge of a pit. But you smile. You say, maybe. That's what women say. Because there is no retirement, no rest, not in this world. As soon as you've recovered, your use begins again. If you're noble, the pressure is worse. A male heir is never enough. A spare must follow. And after that, daughters to be married off. A womb is a castle's insurance. You've heard of noble women who gave birth 10, 12 times. One every year. Some died from it. Others simply stopped living. Their bodies turned to shadow. Their voices went quiet. Peasant women are no freer. Your husband has needs. The priest has expectations. The village has eyes. You're told to drink certain teas after your next bleeding, to keep yourself warm inside, to avoid sleeping with your feet toward the door. All to keep the baby next time. You nod. But inside you feel torn. You want to rest. You want to feel full and strong again. But rest is not a right. It's a miracle. And the world does not give many of those. You go back to work, not because anyone tells you to, but because the food must be made, the fire must be kept. The animals don't wait for your recovery. You carry the baby on your back. Your breasts still ache, but he feeds better now. He grabs your hair. He chews your fingers. He makes small sounds that melt your bones. And in quiet moments you look at him and wonder, could you survive it again? You've heard of women who gave birth in the fields, who squatted, bore down, and returned to their harvest with a newborn swaddled in their apron. But that's not strength. That's necessity. That's what happens when a woman's life is measured not in years, but in children. When your days are counted in kicks and cries and clots and blood. One morning you find an old woman sitting outside your home. She's bent like a question mark, eyes like stones. She gestures for water. You bring her a cup. She nods at the baby. First she asks. You nod. She says he'll break you. They all do. Then she smiles, not cruelly, not kindly, just truthfully. And you understand, because that's what no one tells you, that motherhood in this time is a kind of breaking. Your body, your sleep, your breath, your bones, all cracked open. And in those cracks, life takes root. Your son grows, slowly, wonderfully. He fits in your arms now, but soon he'll stretch, crawl, climb. One day he'll leave walking barefoot across the same roads you bled on. You want to see that, so you do what you must. You drink the bitter teas. You sit in the sun when you can. You eat the broth. You pray with less desperation, more resolve. And when your next bleeding comes late, you close your eyes. You know what's coming. You light a candle, and you begin again. It starts slower this time. You feel the same aching in your back, the same thick heaviness in your legs, but you recognize the signs earlier now. You count the days with more certainty. You notice the fatigue, the fullness, the way your body shifts even before anyone else suspects. You're pregnant again. No midwife confirms it. You don't need her to. Your body tells you. The tightness in your chest, the nausea at dawn, The way your belly feels like a drum pulled taut with possibility. It's all familiar, all frightening. But now you carry not just a child, you carry knowledge. You know the sounds to expect. The way sleep becomes shallow. The way your breasts change shape before your belly does. You remember the things to avoid the foods, to favor the way to wrap your stomach in cloth when the weight grows too sharp beneath your ribs. And you remember the fear that never left. Because now you know what can happen. How close you came last time. How thin the veil between life and death is when you lie on your back legs open, waiting for a body to force its way out of yours. The midwife visits early this time. She kneels beside your stool, pressing a warm hand to your belly, listening not with her ears, but with her palms. She doesn't speak for a while. Then she says, "You're stronger this time." You're not sure if it's a compliment or a warning. You ask if it will hurt less. She smiles, but says nothing. You know the answer. The village responds to the news with little ceremony. Your husband grunts approval. Your neighbors nod. One woman brings you barley bread. Another offers dried mint to ease the sickness. The priest mentions you during Sunday prayers, an offhanded blessing with no eye contact. Pregnancy isn't news anymore. It's your duty. The baby in your arms, your firstborn, still nurses, still clings, still cries when you lay him down. But you begin to pull away gently. Weaning is slow, sometimes cruel, always necessary. You mix barley water into goat milk. You sing while he feeds from the cup. He doesn't understand. He only wants you. But your body belongs elsewhere now. Some nights he cries louder, longer. You feel guilt gnawing at you while your unborn child kicks inside you, greedy for your blood, your warmth, your breath. Your two children share the same mother, but not the same time. One in arms, one in womb. You learn to split yourself. The days pass. Your belly swells. The first child learns to walk. He stumbles barefoot across the packed earth, grabbing for your skirts, falling into your lap. You laugh, but inside you ache. You can't carry them both. You whisper apologies into his hair when he sleeps. You kiss his forehead and beg him to forgive the child he doesn't know yet. You wonder if he'll remember being the only one. The midwife visits more often now. She brings ointments for your cracked feet, teas to ease the pulling in your hips. She checks the way your belly hangs low, she says. Perhaps a girl. She watches the lines in your face. You've aged. The mirror tells you what the villagers don't. The priest visits too. He brings holy water. He places a cross near your bed. He offers confession. You hesitate. Because what sin is there in surviving? You dream again of blood, of screaming, of long nights lit only by candles and the glow of fear. But you also dream of two children playing in fields, their laughter floating up like birdsong. You choose to believe that dream. Then one day you bend too far while lifting a basket. You feel something snap, not pain, not blood, but a shift. The midwife arrives before dusk. She touches your belly and frowns. It's early, she mutters. You lie still. The baby still moves, but softer, slower. You'll rest, she says. You'll not rise until the moon has changed. So you do. You lie in your bed. You listen to your firstborn play outside the window. You hear the goats in the yard. the wind under the thatch, the sound of your own heart, and the waiting begins again. Only this time you are not naive. You have no illusions of glory. There is no feast waiting for you, no crown for birthing twice, only the same pain, the same trembling, the same whispered prayers into cloth soaked with sweat. The second labor begins at night. You feel it like a tide pulling in, a hush in your limbs, a stretching that starts in your spine. You don't cry out this time. You don't need to. The women come. The water boils. The cloths are folded. The bed is prepared. The cross is near. Your husband is sent away again. This time the pain is sharper. Your body opens faster. It remembers. It surrenders. But that doesn't make it easier. The room is quieter this time. The women don't cheer. They press your legs, hold your hands, whisper instructions. But they don't sing. They know this dance too well. You push harder than before. You gasp. You bite your lip until it bleeds. You scream once, not from fear, but from fury. Fury that this still hurts. Fury that this is the price. And then wetness. Release. The baby comes quickly, slippery, small, too small. The midwife catches it, wraps it, doesn't speak. You wait for a cry. It doesn't come. You wait for the room to exhale. It doesn't. You feel your own breath catch. Then a sound. Faint. Weak. A kitten's mewl. Alive. The midwife nods. A girl, she says. And for the first time you cry. Not from pain, but from the unbearable, bottomless relief of hearing life again. She's tiny. That's the first word that passes between the women as they cradle her in cloths warmed by the fire. So small, one says, running a finger down the girl's cheek. But strong lungs, says another, as your daughter releases a thin, broken cry, high, sharp, but unmistakably alive. You're too weak to sit up. Your legs are still trembling, your womb pulsing like a drum being beaten from within. But you lift your arms anyway. You need to hold her, just once. They place her in your arms. She barely fills the crook of your elbow. Her fists are closed. Her face is red as if she's already furious with the world that brought her here. You look into her eyes, blurry, unfocused, and she blinks slowly. That's all. You call her Anna. No one says not to. The midwife watches closely. She eyes the baby's breathing, times her feeding, feels her spine, her skull, her little ribs. She nods but doesn't smile. Keep her warm, she says. Feed her often. Don't leave her alone too long. You don't ask why. You know why. Because small babies slip away. They vanish in the quiet hours between feedings, between sighs. Their skin cools. Their lips blue. Their chests stop moving. And mothers wake with arms still wrapped around what's no longer living. So you hold her. For hours. Your son watches. He doesn't understand. He touches her foot, then pulls his hand back like he's been burned. He looks at you confused, almost betrayed. You pull him close, too. He climbs onto the bed beside you, curls against your side. Both children asleep on your body, warm and real. You wonder how long this moment will last. The answer is never long enough. Your bleeding is heavier this time. The midwife doesn't say it aloud, but you see the tightness in her jaw. The way she presses harder on your abdomen. The way she lingers longer. She gives you stronger herbs. She warns you not to rise too quickly. You stay in bed for 5 days. The neighbors send broth. They peek in the door, ask softly if you're still bleeding, if the baby feeds, if the midwife stays the night. One leaves a charm, an iron nail tied with twine. For protection, she says. You hang it above the door. You don't ask protection from what? You already know. On the 6th day you sit up. Your daughter latches. Her mouth is so small it hurts more than your son's ever did, but you bear it. You whisper songs. You tell her things she'll never remember, what the wind sounds like through the trees, how the first snow feels on bare skin, why fire crackles differently in the morning. You want her to live. So much it frightens you. The priest comes on the 8th day. He doesn't bless her. Not yet. She hasn't been baptized. Not until her strength is sure. But he looks at her and nods. A fine girl, he says. He doesn't mean it. He means she's not a boy. Your husband says little. He holds her once, then hands her back. He touches your shoulder and says, "Rest." But you hear the distance in his voice. You hear the weight of expectations already rearranging themselves in his mind. You wonder if he blames you, or himself, or neither, or both. But the truth is, no one says what they feel in times like this. Not when the line between life and loss is still so thin. You survive the first week, then the second. Your daughter gains weight, slowly. She begins to squirm, to open her eyes, to find your voice in a room full of noise. Her brother watches her now with fascination. He pokes her nose, laughs when she sneezes. He brings her rocks and pieces of straw, gifts in his own way. You laugh more. Not often, but it returns. The feeling, like warmth from coals that never quite went out. And then comes the night she won't stop crying. It's sharp, piercing, endless. You try feeding, rocking, wrapping. Nothing helps. The midwife is gone. You're alone. Your husband sleeps through it. The baby cries until her voice goes hoarse, until your skin prickles with panic. And just when you think you'll lose your mind, she stops, goes limp, silent. You jolt, shake her, whisper her name. She breathes. You fall to the floor. After that, you never sleep without touching her. You keep her basket beside your bed, your hand resting lightly on her belly, feeling for each rise and fall. You count her breaths. You murmur prayers without meaning syllables passed down like heirlooms. Because in this world, sleep is not peace. It's a vigil. At 3 weeks, the bleeding slows. At 4, the midwife nods with approval. You'll mend, she says. Not fully, but enough. That's all you can ask for. You begin to move again. Slowly. You carry water. You grind grain. You return to the rhythm of the village. And people see you differently now. A mother twice over. A woman who has bled and not died. You're not praised. You're endured. But there's a strength in that too. Your daughter is baptized on her 5th week. The whole village attends. The priest says her name aloud. Anna. He smudges oil on her forehead, dips her head in cold water. She shudders, then wails. You smile. It's the best sound in the world. Afterward, a neighbor brings honey cakes. The children chase chickens. Your husband drinks with the men. You sit alone, baby in arms, feet in the grass. And for the first time in a long time, you feel peace. You look up at the sky and wonder, how many more? How many more children? How many more births? How many more nights holding your breath? You don't know. But you're not afraid to ask anymore. Because whatever comes next, you'll meet it. Bleeding, breathing, still here. The seasons change. The air softens, then thickens, then bites again. Your baby girl grows slowly but surely. She opens her eyes more. She sleeps a little longer. She clutches your finger with her whole hand. And her brother, your first, now runs across the yard, barefoot, shouting words that only make sense to you. He brings you daisies, smushed and half dead. You call them treasures. He beams. But the weight of motherhood never eases. It only shifts. You're stronger, yes, but also tired in a way that lives in your bones. You move differently now. You rise slower. Your hips pop. Your knees ache. Your body, though still young, is marked, scarred, opened and stitched together again, not with thread, but with will. You see other women carrying their second, their third, some even with swollen bellies and toddlers slung over hips. You nod at each other. Nothing needs to be said. You all know the same exhaustion, the same determination. There's a wisdom in it, but also a quiet grief. Because now you understand how quickly these small creatures can vanish. One woman loses hers in the night. A baby girl, her first. The priest says it was God's will. The midwife says the breath stopped. The village says little. You visit her with a cloth-wrapped loaf of bread. You don't say a word. You hold her hand while she weeps. And later alone you hold your daughter tighter than ever. She smells like milk and sweat and ash from the fire. You wonder how long you'll be allowed to keep her. There's no medicine for this fear, no saints strong enough to protect every crib. So you create your own rituals. You touch your daughter's forehead with holy water. You sleep with a sprig of sage near her basket. You hang a charm of iron nails tied with red thread over the door. You tell yourself it's enough. Some days it is. But others you hear coughing. Your boy begins to wheeze one night, a cold that lingers. He clutches his stomach and cries. The midwife comes, brings mustard poultice and elderberry tea. She wraps his chest with cloth and lights a fire beneath the bed. You stay up all night. You press a damp rag to his lips. You whisper stories. You bargain with every saint you know. He survives. He's slower afterward, thinner, but he survives. And you thank the Virgin each day after, not out loud, just with your hands, your work, your breath. The days pass in repetition, feeding, cooking, mending, wiping, washing linens by the river, watching for blood in stools, for fever, for silence, and your body begins to feel like a tool. You're not alone in this. One neighbor births 5 in 10 years. 2 die. 1 grows sickly. Another is lost in a flood. The 5th lives. She clutches him like he's her last breath. You understand her too well. The village holds a baptism, then a funeral, then another birth. Life is not a line here, it's a circle. A cycle of cradles and graves, tears and wet kisses, boiling cloths and prayers, whispered through clenched teeth. There's no time to mourn properly. No room for collapse. You keep going. Your husband speaks more now. He helps with the animals, brings wood, tends to the roof. Sometimes he holds the baby. She curls into his chest and sighs, and he looks at her like she's something delicate in his calloused hands. He doesn't say it, but you know he loves her. Not the way you do, but his own way. You grow quieter around each other, but also closer, like survivors, like co-conspirators. Then the midwife mentions something strange. You haven't bled since the girl. You shake your head, still nursing. She nods but looks at you long. Be careful. You already know what she means. Nursing might keep the bleeding away. But not always. And you've heard of women who carry again without knowing, who go months before feeling the signs. You check your belly each morning. You wait for the sickness, for the weight. It doesn't come. Relief mixes with guilt, because you don't want another. Not yet. You want to breathe, to heal, to watch these two grow tall enough to chase chickens and shout through the fields, to reach a day when you no longer jump at every cough. You want time, but time is not guaranteed. A neighboring village is hit with fever. Children fall first, then mothers. The priest rides through with warnings. Boil water, he says. Burn old straw. The midwife says to hang garlic and keep windows open. You do it all. The sickness doesn't come this time. But now you see everything in terms of chance. Who survives? Who doesn't? Who catches fever and who outruns it? You think back to when you were a girl. How simple it all seemed. How you thought being a mother was just holding a baby, singing lullabies, tucking them into bed. No one told you it would feel like this. Like being a body cut in two, like never belonging fully to yourself again. But even with that, when your daughter smiles at you with gummy gums and squints into the sun, you feel something deeper than happiness. You feel meaning, not from the church, not from your husband, not from the priest with his muttered Latin, but from this, her weight in your arms, her breath against your neck, the sound of her heartbeat so small and steady and stubborn. You're still bleeding a little, but you ignore it. You're tired, but you keep moving. You're afraid, but you hold them both. And every night when the candles burn low and the wind rattles the shutters, you whisper their names into the dark. Thomas, Anna, and you promise silently that you will do whatever it takes to keep them here, even if it breaks you. Again. The world outside your home changes without asking your permission. Seasons pass. The wind grows colder again. The leaves fall. Then the snow comes. Not all at once, but in bitter whispers, edging over windowsills and seeping under doors. You pack cracks with straw. You cover the floor with old wool. You sleep closer to the fire. Winter in the village is not beautiful. It's hungry. The animals grow thin. The root cellar grows bare. You stretch flour with crushed acorns. You boil bones until they splinter. You soak stale bread in milk and call it porridge. The children grow quieter. Your son coughs more in the morning. Your daughter refuses to sleep unless she's pressed against your skin. You carry her beneath your shawl like a secret. You hear of a child freezing in the next village, left too close to the window. No one blamed the mother. They all understood. You begin to sleep in shifts. Your husband watches the fire while you rest. Then you wake to take over, whispering to the logs to last just a little longer. The night doesn't forgive forgetfulness, and still you nurse. Your breasts ache from the cold, but your daughter won't take anything else. You keep feeding her because it's the only way to feel certain she's getting something warm. Your son becomes curious. He asks questions now, not with words but with gestures. Why do we sleep on the floor? Why don't the cows make milk? Why do the trees sound like they're crying? You don't always have answers, but you tell him stories, not about saints or kings, about women who kept their children warm by burying them in hay, about mothers who lit fires with their own chairs, about girls who grew up holding babies on their hips and still found time to laugh. You say we are strong, because saying it makes it true. For a moment. The church tells you this is the season of patience. Advent, they call it. Waiting for Christ to come. You think Christ won't feel the chill in my fingers. Christ won't scrape snow off the roof or melt ice from the pot. Still you light the candle. Still you whisper a prayer. The priest visits one morning blue with cold, his robe soaked at the hem. He blesses the house leaves, a crust of bread, tells you to hold on. Spring will come, he says. You nod, but you know that some won't see it. Your neighbor dies after childbirth. Too much blood, not enough warmth. Her child lives barely. You volunteer to help nurse it. Your daughter feeds less, now eating soaked grain and soft bread, so you share your milk. It hurts, but you do it anyway. Because this is how women survive together, quietly, painfully, persistently. The midwife stops by, less now. The snow makes travel slow. She leaves herbs wrapped in cloth, instructs you from the doorway, calls advice into the wind. Keep them close, she shouts once. You were never going to do anything else. By midwinter, the sun barely rises. Your children grow pale. You mark their growth by the way their tunics fit. Thomas's sleeves now reach only to his elbows. Anna can finally stand. She stumbles like a lamb on ice, then laughs at herself. It's the sweetest sound in the world. Your husband finds more words now. He tells stories by the fire. Of his father's winters of frostbite, of lost sheep, of miraculous escapes. Your son listens, eyes wide. You rock your daughter to sleep with the rhythm of his voice. And in those moments, you almost feel rich. Not in coin, but in breath, in survival, in the continued miracle of 4 beating hearts beneath one roof. Then one night, Anna won't wake. Not truly. Her breath is there but light. Her skin is cool, her lips dry. She moans once, then stillness. You don't panic. You've been here before. You stoke the fire higher. You strip her down and press her to your skin. You rock, whisper, breathe for her. Your husband brings heated stones, wraps them in cloth, places them at your feet. Your son watches, quiet, unmoving, and you wait. The night lasts forever, but by dawn she stirs. You cry harder than she does. For the rest of the winter, she doesn't leave your arms. You become the fire, the cradle, the warmth. You don't ask why. You don't ask how long. You only hold on. Because this is what it means to mother in the Middle Ages. It's not a chapter in a book, not a painting in a church. It's this: bleeding fingers from washing in icy water, milk let down in fear, eyes searching for frostbite on tiny toes, coughs counted, faint breathing checked, meals skipped so your child can eat a little more. You don't do it for praise. You do it because you have to, because no one else will, because love in this world is a fire that must be tended or it dies, and no one, not even God, always brings the matches. But spring does come. Eventually. The snow melts into mud. The goats birth kids. The air no longer cuts your face in two. You open the window, just a crack. Your daughter breathes deeper. Your son runs barefoot again. And for the first time in months, you let go of the fear. Not entirely, just enough to stretch your spine and face the sun. You lived. They lived. That's more than most. Spring returns not with trumpets, but with a drip. A slow, rhythmic melting, icicles shrinking, mud taking over where snow once ruled. The air, still cold, no longer bites it, brushes like fingers too long absent. You hear birds again, the soft chirping in the eaves that you thought might never return. Your son points at the sky, shouting with glee. Your daughter squints into the light, her face scrunched, like she's forgotten what warmth feels like. You walk again, barefoot for a few minutes at a time, feeling the wet soil press up between your toes. It's like waking from a months-long trance. But spring brings more than thaw. It brings labor. There are fields to till, even if your husband's hands are already calloused from hauling wood and tending animals. There are seeds to sow, tools to mend thatched roofs, to patch where the snow sank through. And there are mouths always hungry, always waiting to feed. Your days are no lighter now, just longer. Your daughter starts to crawl with purpose, scooting after her brother, grabbing at whatever he touches, tearing leaves and squealing in triumph. Your son has grown another inch. You notice it when he runs toward you, and his head lands square against your sternum instead of your stomach. He speaks in short, clipped sentences now. He calls Anna Bean because when she first rolled over, she curled like one. He protects her fiercely, sometimes, too fiercely. You separate them at times, but mostly you let them be. They're all each other have. Other mothers talk about spring as if it's salvation, and in a way it is. Fever retreats. The food becomes real again, roots, then greens, then eggs if you're lucky. You find joy in watching weeds push through the cracks in the stone. But even as life returns, so does the danger. Spring means rain. Rain means rot. And rot means death. You fight back in all the small ways, hanging linen in the sun, boiling water for hours, beating rugs until the dust chokes you. You scrub the children more. You check for lice, for rash, for the strange smell that means something is brewing beneath the skin. And you wait. Because waiting is what mothers do best. You wait for your bleeding to return. It doesn't. Not at first. You tell yourself it's stress, that your body is still recovering, that your strength hasn't fully come back. You nurse. You work. You eat. But your womb is quiet. Then one day the nausea creeps in, softly, cruelly. You vomit behind the hut before the children wake. You wipe your mouth and sit in the grass, dry heaving and furious. Not again. Not now. You go to the midwife. She sees your face and says nothing. She only opens the door wider. She presses her palms to your belly. She doesn't need to say it. You both know. She gives you tea, not to stop it, but to help you survive it. You feel the baby small as a grain of wheat, already claiming space in a body still stretched thin by the last. You don't cry. Not until the midwife asks, "Do you want this one?" And even then you don't sob. The tears slide quietly, salt against your sunburned skin. Want has nothing to do with it. This is the Middle Ages. There is no choice. You carry the baby like a secret. For a while, no one notices. Your stomach hasn't rounded. Your breasts are already heavy with milk for Anna, so no one thinks twice. You work as before. You speak as before. But inside, your thoughts are louder than ever. What if you die this time? What if the third birth breaks you? What if your daughter watches your body go limp before she even knows the word for mother? You shake the thoughts away, but they linger like smoke in a closed room. Your husband finds out, not through words, but through instinct. He watches the way you move, the way you rest your hand over your belly without thinking. He says nothing at first. Then one night he lays beside you and asks, "Are you strong enough?" It's not cruel. It's not tender. It's just the truth. You don't answer because you don't know. You continue. Days roll on. Your children grow. Anna begins to walk. Thomas climbs trees, then falls, then climbs again. You carry the new baby beneath your ribs, walking slower. Now hands on your back, sweat, dampening your neckline even in the cool of the morning. You count the weeks. You mark the kicks. You try not to dread the future, but it comes for you anyway. One day a woman in the village gives birth. Her fifth. The cord wraps around the neck. The child dies. The mother survives barely. You hear the story whispered while gathering water. You drop the bucket. That night you lie awake, hand over your belly. The baby kicks. You whisper, "Please." Not even sure what you're asking for, peace, mercy, a painless end. There's no answer, only another kick. And so, once again, you prepare. You boil linens, you stitch clean cloths, you ask the midwife to come when the time is near. You kiss your son and daughter longer at night, breathing them in, pressing their tiny bodies to yours, like you can absorb their warmth and make it armor. And when the pain finally starts, you don't scream. You just breathe. Because now you know what it means to bleed and not die. And you pray, though prayer is a strange word, for what you do, that this time your body will remember how to open. That this time your heart will remember how to hope, because there is a life inside you, and it's coming, whether you're ready or not. This third birth is not like the others. It doesn't begin with a great gush or a scream or the sudden collapse of your strength. It begins slowly, with a heaviness that settles in your pelvis, a quiet throb at the base of your spine, a pulse in your lower belly, dull but insistent. You don't tell anyone at first. You rise as usual. You feed Anna. You braid Thomas's hair. You sweep the hearth. But the pressure builds as you stir the pot, as you lift the water bucket, as you bend to pick a scrap of thread off the floor. By midday, you can't hide the winces. Your husband sees. He puts down his tools. Thomas sees. He clutches your skirt. Anna sees. She begins to cry. You send for the midwife. but she is attending another birth. So it is the neighbor women who come first. One brings herbs, another brings a candle, another brings the memory of her own 4 deliveries buried beneath wrinkles and gray hair. They help you lie down. They press your knees apart. They speak softly. You bite down on your sleeve. It hurts. It always hurts. But this time your body feels exhausted, not tired, hollow, like something inside has been scraped too thin, stretched too far. Still you bear down. You push. Again and again. The sweat drips into your eyes. One of the women murmurs, "The head." You breathe. You push. And then something feels wrong. The pain sharpens, twists, grows unbearable. You arch your back, gasping. One of the women leans close, checks beneath the hem of your tunic. She pauses. Then she whispers to another, and you catch one word, breach. You know what it means. Feet first. You've heard the stories. Babies who come that way don't always come alive. And when they do, mothers sometimes don't. Your heart pounds. Your legs shake. One of the women leaves running to fetch the midwife, praying she's finished with the other birth. The others stay with you, pressing warm cloths against your belly, rubbing your arms, whispering things you can't hear. The pain rises like a wave that doesn't break. You push, but it feels wrong, like you're pushing uphill, like your body is fighting itself. You begin to weep, not just from pain, from fear, from the terrifying certainty that this might be the end. Then the midwife arrives. She doesn't speak. She washes her hands. She checks you fast and firm. Then she breathes out sharply. "Still time," she says, "but only if you listen." You nod barely. She speaks low. Her fingers work quickly. She does something inside you that makes you scream, truly scream for the first time. The women hold your shoulders. You think you might break apart, but something shifts, and suddenly there's movement. Downward, outward. You push again, harder. You give everything. And then it happens. A wet, wriggling weight slides free. And then silence. You freeze. The midwife slaps the baby's foot. Still silence. Then again, another slap, and finally a cry, high, loud, furious. You sob. You can't stop. Your whole body shakes with it. The women are crying too, even the oldest one who never shows emotion. "It's a boy," the midwife says. "You've got another son." You reach out with trembling arms. He's smaller than the first, but pink, strong. His fists flail, his legs kick. He roots for your breast, immediately impatient, alive. You don't know how you're still here, but you are. The afterbirth comes quickly. The bleeding is heavier than before. The midwife watches closely. She mixes herbs. She presses your belly. She gives you water laced with something bitter. You drink without question, because there is no strength left for questions. Your husband enters, then holding Thomas's hand. Anna curled against his shoulder. He stops when he sees you, sees the blood, sees the baby. His mouth opens, then closes. Then he kneels. Just kneels. Says nothing. You nod. That's enough. The next days are a blur of rest and firelight. Your body is wrecked. There is no gentle word for it. You can barely move. Your belly aches like it's been scooped out. Your breasts swell painfully, and the baby feeds with a greed that draws tears from your eyes. But he feeds. He lives. You name him Matthew, because it means gift. You're not sure you believe it yet, but the sound of the name makes your chest ache in a way that's not entirely pain. The village hears of the breach, of your survival. They don't say much, but they look at you differently. Even the priest nods in a way that feels respectful. Not like before. Not like you're unclean, but like you've returned from a place he's never dared to go. And maybe you have. Because childbirth here and now is not a moment. It is a voyage. One foot in this world, the other dangling over the void. And somehow you've come back, again. 3 children, 3 births, 3 miracles if you dare to call them that. Your home is full now, full of noise, of crying and laughter and mess, of cloths drying by the fire, of spilled broth, of toy sheep carved from wood, of lullabies that drift upward into the thatch, and full of silence too. The kind of silence that wraps around you when the children finally sleep, when the night is soft, when your heart slows, when you touch your belly empty again and whisper thanks, not because it was easy, but because you made it, somehow, still breathing, still here. The days that follow blur into each other like the weaving of a thick woolen cloak, each thread small but part of a larger tapestry you can't step back far enough to see. Matthew feeds constantly. His cries are sharper than the others, more urgent. You wonder if he remembers how hard it was to arrive. You cradle him even in your sleep, one arm around his tiny body, your other hand resting on Anna, who presses herself into your side as if afraid she's been replaced. She hasn't. But she doesn't know that yet. Thomas, older now, tries to be brave. He fetches water without being asked. He tells the baby stories in his raspy voice. He wraps Anna's feet in cloth when she wanders too close to the door. You see the way he watches you quietly, like he's trying to memorize your face in case it ever disappears. And you understand, because he's seen what happens when a mother vanishes. The woman 2 huts over her body gave out after her second son. They said she was strong, that she'd come through worse. But the blood didn't stop, and she was gone before the cock crowed. Her baby lived. The other women are taking turns feeding him now. You've offered 2. You already nursed 2. What's one more? The truth is, you don't mind. When you're holding them, when you're feeding, you feel a strange power. Your body, torn and scarred, is still able to give life. Still able to quiet the hunger of 3 mouths, 3 souls. It doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like proof. But you ache. All the time now. Not just your back and legs, but inside. A dull pull in your womb. A pinch in your pelvis. Your hips no longer move without a crack. And your hands, they tremble when you lift the kettle, when you wring out the linen, when you press a cloth to a fevered forehead. You're not old, but you feel worn. Worn in the way rope feels after too many winters, strong but frayed. You go to the midwife. She checks your belly, your skin. She listens. Then she looks into your eyes for a long time. You've done enough, she says softly. You nod. But what does that mean? There is no such thing as done here. Your body doesn't belong to you. Not really. It belongs to the seasons, to the needs of your children, to the silent, unquestioned expectation that you will always, always be ready to give more. There's no talk of stopping, of saying no. Not in this village. Not with 3 living children. Not when women younger than you are already carrying their 4th. Still, the midwife's words haunt you. You've done enough. You repeat it to yourself while washing, while stirring, while rocking the baby against your chest at night. It feels like a spell or a rebellion. Then one night, your husband speaks the words aloud. No more, he says, not unkindly. I don't want to lose you. You don't answer. You don't know how. Because he's not in control of that. Neither are you. The rhythm of your cycle remains broken. You wait for your bleeding to return. You hope and fear it at once. Because bleeding means your body is resetting. But it also means the door reopens. The possibility of another baby, another danger, another walk along the edge of the grave. You begin to wonder if there's a way to stop it. You've heard rumors, from the old women, from the travelers, of herbs that slow the blood, of roots that silence the womb, of teas that keep the belly empty. But they're spoken of in whispers, with warnings. Some say they work. Others say they bring death. You think of your children. You think of yourself. And you ask the midwife in the lowest voice you've ever used, what happens if I don't want another? She pauses. Then she takes your hand. There is a leaf, bitter rough, wrapped in cloth. Steep it. Only once. Only if you must. You don't use it. Not yet. But you keep it hidden, tucked in the folds of your shawl, next to the coins, next to the beads from your wedding day. It feels like freedom, or at least the illusion of it. Spring deepens into summer. The days grow long. The children sweat through their clothes and run barefoot until their feet harden. Matthew sits up on his own. Anna begins to speak in full sentences. Thomas catches frogs and pretends he's a knight. You laugh again. Real laughter. The kind that doesn't end in tears. You sit in the doorway with your sleeves rolled high, watching your children play in the dust. And for a moment, just a moment, you forget the danger, the loss, the ache. You forget the graves and the bleeding, and the women who didn't make it through. You feel only this wind against your face, warmth against your skin, the sound of your daughter giggling as your son chases her. You don't need more than this. You've done enough. And for the first time, you believe it. It's the end of a long day, when the thought finally settles in your chest, like a warm stone. You are not afraid anymore. Not entirely, at least. You still listen for the children's breathing at night. You still scan their skin for rashes, feel their foreheads for fever, trace the color of their lips in low light. But the edge is softer now. The fear no longer clings to your ribs like a second skeleton. It's still there, but quieter. You've earned that peace. Matthew crawls now, fast, with the speed of a child who was nearly lost before he was even born. He barrels through the house like a tiny storm, grabbing everything, laughing at nothing. He's strong, this one. You feel it in your bones. Anna talks endlessly. She sings songs she invents on the spot, nonsense verses that somehow bring tears to your eyes. She mothers her dolls with a seriousness that stirs something deep in you. You watch her tiny hands wrap cloth around a pebble and cradle it like it might cry. Thomas is older still, running farther, asking harder questions. He wants to know where the stars go during the day, why some people die after giving birth, why you sometimes sit quietly with your eyes closed, saying nothing at all. You never quite know how to answer, but you try. Because that's what you do now. You teach, you hold, you guide. You become a kind of map they follow with sticky fingers and unsure feet. You never asked for that role. It came with the bleeding, the birth, the breaking. Still, you carry it. There are days when you feel more ghost than woman, when your body moves from task to task, stirring, folding, fetching, with no room left for pleasure, for stillness, for thought. There are moments when you stare out across the fields and wonder if this is all there is. And then your daughter places a dandelion in your hand and says, "For your crown," and you realize it's enough. The village changes around you, slowly. A new midwife arrives, young, full of ideas. The old one watches from a distance, hands folded in her lap, offering guidance only when asked. You see the change in her eyes. She's tired too, but proud. Women you've known since girlhood become mothers. You help them when you can, washing linen, whispering prayers, placing your palm over swollen bellies and saying, "It will pass." All of it. Even this. They believe you because you've lived it. You become something else to them now, not just a neighbor, not just a fellow wife, but a figure of proof, a woman who survived, a woman who bled 3 times and walked away. They ask you questions. What does labor feel like? When should they call the midwife? Will they ever sleep again? You answer as best you can, sometimes honestly, sometimes with lies they need to hear. You tell them they are strong. You tell them they are capable. You tell them they will know what to do, even when you remember all the moments you didn't. Your husband changes too. He begins to speak more, not just about goats and roofs and grain, but about memories, about his own mother, about the sound of snow falling, about fear. You realize he carries his own wounds, not from blood, but from helplessness, from watching you suffer and not knowing how to ease it. He begins to help more. He holds the children. He fetches water. He tends the fire without being asked. He still doesn't say, "I love you," but sometimes he looks at you like he remembers what you were before the births. And maybe he sees you still there beneath the layers of exhaustion. You never expected companionship, but there it is. Rough, uneven, earned. The church celebrates the feast of a mother saint. They speak of her patience, her humility, her obedience. You sit in the back of the chapel, your hands stained with ash, your mind far from heaven. You look at the other women around you, cracked, bleeding, beautiful in their quiet ache, and you wonder how the saints would have survived here, with no clean robes, no gold halos, just soiled cloths and chapped lips, and babies that cry through the night. You don't want sainthood. You want sleep. But for now you settle for stillness. In the evenings you sit in the doorway. Anna leans against your side. Matthew clutches your thumb. Thomas draws pictures in the dust. You breathe them in. Their skin, their noise, their tiny pulsing lives. You think of the woman you were before the births. You grieve her sometimes. But you also honor her. She walked through the fire and emerged carrying 3 children in her arms. You are not untouched. You are not unscarred. But you are whole in a way no one can see. And when you finally stand to pull them inside for the night, when you kiss their foreheads and smooth their blankets, when you lie down beside your husband and rest your body still sore, still soft, you do so with a kind of quiet triumph. You made it, not just through the births, but through everything that came after, and in the morning you'll do it again. You wake before the sun, not because you choose to, because Anna stirs, because Matthew murmurs in his sleep, because your back aches and your arms feel too heavy. The world is still dark. Your body begs for more rest. But motherhood doesn't wait for light. You rise anyway. The floor is cold. Your shawl is damp where it hung near the door. You wrap yourself in it and begin the day. First the fire. The embers are weak. You coax them, feed them. You press your hands toward the glow. Then the kettle, the grain, the cloths that still need boiling. You move in silence save for the hiss of water, the crackle of flame. Then comes Anna barefoot, hair tangled, clutching her cloth doll. She doesn't speak. She climbs into your lap and rests her cheek against your chest. You hold her with one arm and stir porridge with the other. This is your altar now, not the church, not the place with incense and polished wood, but here where ashes cling to your sleeves and soft breathing warms your collarbone. Thomas comes next, with a question. Always a question. Why do birds fly and we don't? You answer without thinking. Because they have wings. He frowns. That's not fair. You smile. No, it isn't. He accepts it. For now. Later, your husband rises. He nods to you. He lifts Matthew from his cradle and tosses him gently into the air. The baby shrieks with laughter. You feel something in your chest, something that might be happiness, might be weariness, might be both. You eat together. Bread broth, a boiled root. It's not much, but enough. You've learned to count enough as a blessing. The day unfolds as it always does. Washing, feeding, stitching a tear in a tunic, chopping greens, watching Anna wade into puddles while Matthew eats dirt and Thomas shouts at the sun. The rhythm is relentless, but it's familiar. You measure time not by the church calendar, but by your children's limbs, the first tooth, the first step, the first fall that draws blood. You mark the hours by when they nap, when they cry, when they pause long enough to lay their heads on your shoulder and go still. These are your holy hours. You no longer dream of anything else. That doesn't mean you've stopped imagining. Sometimes you wonder what life might have been if you'd been born different. A man, perhaps, or a noblewoman, or a healer who traveled from village to village with no husband, no children, only tinctures and tales. But those thoughts fade quickly. They belong to another world. In this one, you are mother to 3, wife to 1, keeper of the hearth, bearer of the pain. And somehow quietly, you've become something else too. A guide. A voice other women turn to, when their bellies swell, when their backs ache, when their bleeding doesn't stop. They come to you. You share what you know, how to bind the belly, how to squat during birth, how to breathe through the tearing, how to hold your own life in your hands just long enough to give someone else theirs. You speak softly. You don't exaggerate. You don't promise miracles. You only say what is true. You say you are strong enough even if you don't feel it yet. You say it will hurt, and then it will hurt more, and then it will be over. You say you might forget who you are for a while, but you will come back. They believe you, because you have lived it. You know the sound of your own scream, the shock of blood soaking through cloth, the silence of a child not breathing, the wild hope when they cry anyway. You know how it feels to wake up and not recognize your body, to wonder if you'll ever want to be touched again, to feel rage and joy and terror in the same breath. You are no longer naive, but you are no longer broken either. You are something else now, something stronger. And when you gather your children in your arms at the end of the day, when you lift Anna and Matthew and rest your hand on Thomas's head, you feel the enormity of it all. You didn't just survive. You built something. With nothing but your body, your will, and the scraps of grace you could find between disasters. Night falls. You tuck them in one by one. You kiss their cheeks. You whisper their names. Then you sit by the fire alone and let the quiet stretch. You touch the place below your navel where all three of them once lived. It's soft now, folded, marked by time. It still belongs to them. But it belongs to you again, too. Finally. The summer rolls on long and golden humming with insects and laughter, and the rustle of drying herbs tied to the beams overhead. Your life no longer feels like something you survive, at least not all the time. Now it feels like something you carry like a heavy but cherished basket pressed to your hip. The children grow fast. Thomas helps more now, fetching wood, gathering eggs, even shoeing goats when they wander. His limbs are long, awkward. His voice cracks in the middle of songs. You catch glimpses of the man he'll become. It tugs something inside you, something bittersweet and wordless. Anna mothers everything: frogs, stones, sleeping chickens. She wraps Matthew in shawls and calls him my prince. He scowls at her but never pulls away. Matthew is still small but quick as a squirrel. He climbs, falls, climbs again. He laughs with his whole chest, a reckless joy you can't explain. His arms are always smudged with dirt. His knees saws scraped, his eyes full of wild light. You watch them and you begin to realize something. This is not just your story. It never was. It's theirs. Each of them carries pieces of you, your hands, your voice, your stubbornness. But they are becoming themselves. They will grow beyond your arms, beyond the hut, beyond the village. One day, they may even forget the way your shawl smells, or the sound of your hum in the dark. But for now, you are still their center. You braid Anna's hair. You teach Thomas to thread a needle. You rock Matthew on your hip as you stir the pot. You are still needed, and you are still healing. Not from one wound, but from many. The slow, silent wounds of motherhood, in this age the kind no one sees. The ones that don't leave visible scars, but change you all the same. You think often now about what you'd tell your younger self. The girl who thought pregnancy was 9 months of glowing. The girl who thought birth would make her a mother instantly. The girl who didn't know that loving your children could be so painful, so loud, so constant. You'd tell her it's harder than you think, but you are braver than you know. You'd tell her you'll be lonely sometimes, even with children in your arms. You'd tell her there will be nights when you want to run, and mornings when their breath brings you back. You'd tell her you won't always recognize yourself, but that doesn't mean you're lost. And then maybe you'd hold her. Just for a while. because that girl never knew how much she'd endure or how much she'd give. The priest speaks one morning of legacy, of what we leave behind. He means land, money, name. But you think of something else. You think of Thomas showing Matthew how to tie a knot, of Anna carrying her doll crooning to it with your melody, of Matthew watching your hands as you plant seeds mimicking the motion. They are your legacy, their lives your proof. You didn't build cathedrals, you didn't write songs, but you shaped human beings from blood and will and aching bone. And that is no small thing. Sometimes you still dream, not of escape, but of possibility. You dream of other women gathering, not to serve or kneel or wait, but to speak, to share, to say the truth out loud. You imagine a world where pain isn't hidden, where labor isn't shame, where love is seen for what it is, the hardest work a body can do. You don't know if that world will ever come, but you hold the dream like you once held Thomas, fragile, trembling, full of need, and when you wake it still warms your hands. One night Anna wakes from a nightmare. You hold her close. She whispers, "Are you always going to be here?" You pause. Then you say the only thing you can, "For as long as I can be." She accepts it, falls back asleep. You sit awake for hours watching the firelight flicker across their sleeping faces. You are so tired, so full, so alive. You touch your belly again, no longer a battlefield, no longer a doorway. Just yours. Your body is your own again, and you promise yourself that you'll remember this moment, the stillness, the warmth, the quiet miracle of being whole after everything. And now, as the last embers of this medieval tale fade, you find yourself breathing a little slower, a little deeper. Maybe the story didn't lull you into a full slumber, but that's okay. Some journeys stay with you a while before they drift away. You've traveled through dirt-floored homes and candle-lit births, through pain that was whispered and love that had no words. You've lived the weight of motherhood as it once was, fierce, raw, sacrificial, and unspoken. And now, in the gentle hush of the night, perhaps you carry just a little more awe for those who came before. Take a moment here in the quiet to notice the stillness around you, the softness of your blanket, the rhythm of your breath, the fact that you are here now safe and warm and untouched by the cold stone walls of the past. Let the last traces of flickering firelight dim behind your eyes. There's no rush. Sleep waits for you, patient and kind, and whether you drift off now or carry the story a bit longer into your dreams, may it leave behind not heaviness, but peace. You made it through the darkest corridors of time, and you're still breathing, still here, still strong.